We should be there. We should be live to the world, to the YouTube world, to all the
And we are
YouTubers.
live. Well, and welcome. And see, this is what happens again. How did I not get? I don't want my timer to show.
I was going to say that's a new
I
feature.
understand it. There it goes.
And you
That's
do
a new
freeze action.
It's
There
to
you
keep
go.
me, because otherwise we just get lost in stuff. And we have been known to all of a sudden we were like, oh brother, how long have we been talking?
Exactly.
Oops, Barbara's freezing up a little bit.
I know. So crazy. She was totally fine until we started the show.
Uh-oh. We'll blame it on her cat.
It's tripod.
The
tripod's
each
usually
and
good luck.
every one of us.
So Barbara,
There's
you just
Barbara.
froze.
Yeah.
Why
you've
did I
been-
just freeze? Can we start
know.
over? No, we can't.
Yeah.
We're live.
Well, we're live,
This
but
is
let's go. Yeah, I
This
don't know
is
if
the-
anybody's in yet, so they don't even know.
So, and you can cut that part out. Anyways, let's be happy. That's what it comes down to. Because I mean, let's be happy.
Sounds
What's
good to
up,
me.
Barbara?
Hey. I'm doing good. I've just had this totally glitch. It's like, but now you know what? I've gotten to the point where I just don't worry about it. It's live.
Oh yeah, for sure. I absolutely love the black and pink combo you have going on today.
Oh,
I do too.
Isn't
And
it
I have a
great?
blue thing going with a black shirt. So it's like a male-female energy.
Exactly. And you've
Nice.
got black and blue on. It's like, hey, you know what?
Oh, wow.
Meant to be. So Jason, tell us about you.
I'm Jason Tracy. I'm over here in Brighton, Michigan, just enjoying life. Last night was Halloween and had a nice time. My son's girlfriend came over. They trick-or-treated out in the neighborhood and stuff like that. And kind of cool. It's a little different. He's 14 now, but it's a different stage. And yeah, so we're just kind of hanging out, enjoying the everyday riches over here.
Right. And has a girlfriend. So that's it's fun. Isn't it fun
Yeah.
that's that first little
It's a really cool stage in life. And it's one of those things, like literally coming into this summer, he was like anti-girlfriend,
Wow.
hanging out with the girls, that kind of thing. And this just kind of happened and they connected really, really well. And, it's one of those things I told my wife, we can't get our hopes up and set our own expectations for his relationship. But I could totally see them being the type of people that are in a relationship all through high school. They just connected
Wow.
really, really well. And so it's been really cool because it went from not anti-girlfriend, not really kind of understanding the relationship thing to watching him like open doors and like be this really sweet kid and his personality come out. And it's been awesome, but it's been also awesome. Like you wonder, as like we took a long trip, and sorry, I just didn't mean to be a long-winded thing, but it's kind of an interesting human experiment. So we took a long trip a couple weeks ago, and we took her with us, and so we went all the way up. I live in Michigan, like I said, and so went all the way up north, and there's a tunnel of trees, and so it was like a little fall trip. We took this whole day trip, and the whole day it's so cute. He's like, caressing her hair and like making
Aw.
sure, like when we stopped to get drinks and stuff like that, that she had everything she needed, and like. When they dropped her off, it's just they talked and giggled the whole time. They have a lot in common, so there's just really cool stuff. But it was like one of those things of like, what they're watching, because he's like watching how I watching him was like watching myself in the mirror of like how
I was going to say, is that role modeling extraordinaire?
And so that was one of those things, like you don't know like what they see. And so as I was watching this happen, I'm like, oh my God, it's like I'm watching myself in the mirror. It's It's so cool to see. So that's the everyday riches right there. That wasn't meant to be talked about, but it just kind of unfolded.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but Jason, meet Amy. Amy and I, we've done a couple of things. We've done a couple of things together. She has an absolutely fascinating story. So Amy, take it away. I love your stories.
I'm a sucker for a good story. So
it's a good
thank
story.
you. So it's been a very interesting and sort of circuitous path. But I grew up in New York City, did not feel like that was a fit for me at all. Really dreamt of living on an organic farm in Vermont, and actually got to one 13 and a half years ago. I lived in Massachusetts for a bunch of years, but I've lived in Vermont the longest that I've lived anywhere. And when I moved up here, I moved up with my former husband and my daughter, and then decided that that wasn't the long-term relationship that I really wanted to be in. And so strangely enough, went on Match.com of all places and met my partner, Dave, who is an organic farmer, and have been just continually creating my best life. I'm really big into vision boards, and I've had vision boards for about 35 years. And all of the stuff that I have created in my life pretty much was on my vision board. And so I keep updating them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But actually now, so I live on this organic farm. I do certain things in the summertime, like these very unique food and farm tours, some farm immersion program to help people that want to learn how to grow their food sustainably, either to create a business out of it or just to do it for themselves. And I'm super psyched about, we had a couple of women last summer, our first program, these two Hazels, a mother and daughter team that started their own family farm, actually grew vegetables this season and sold them at a farmer's market, which is incredible. And so that's what I do in the summertime. And then year round, I'm a eco-friendly transformational coach, mentor, and retreat leader.
That is amazing. That sounds awesome.
Doesn't that sound cool?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
Tell
fun.
me about these retreats.
Yeah. So I actually did my first one, I believe it was 8 years ago now. I did it as a pilot program. And I was, at the time, I was working with a nonprofit organization that was focused on veterans, particularly female veterans. And so it was kind of funny. This guy found me on the internet because I had an organic gardening course that I was selling. And we had a series of conversations, and he wanted to buy the course to teach these female veterans how to grow food. And so in the course of our conversations, I said, hey, I think I can do way better than that. I've been wanting to do some kind of an in-person retreat on the farm. So I determined that I was going to, first I thought I would do all female veterans, but then I decided I would do half female veterans and half non-veterans. And I'm so glad that I did, because one of the things I learned about that was female veterans have a really difficult time reintegrating back into society. And so at first they were a little bit uncomfortable with the idea of having non-veteran women. And, you know, shortly after we started, became really happy that they had non-veteran women that they could connect to. So we did all kinds of interesting stuff. Organic gardening, of course, was one of the features. And what I found too was that to de-stress, a lot of times the women would go into the garden and weed. And so they learned about all this healthy food. We made food together. We have a pizza oven in our farm stand. We learned about juicing, and, you know, I'm all about cooking from scratch, and, you know, it's freshly picked food and all the nutrient dense whole foods and all that kind of stuff. And then one of the coolest things is we went to this horse trainer's farm. Now, this woman is more than just a horse trainer. She's like a horse whisperer. And one of the reasons why horses, I chose horses because I have a love for them. I had horses at the time, but horses are an amazing life coach, really, because what they do is they reflect back to us how we show up in the world, which is often what we have a blind spot on, right? We can think we know ourselves, but we don't always know how we show up to other people. But horses can reflect back different things about us that help us learn. So a perfect example, we did an exercise where everybody was leading a horse, or at least they thought they were. And one of the women was remarking, she's like, this horse is behaving just like my 3-year-old. He won't come, you know, or he's leading me, instead of letting, you know, they're supposed to walk by your shoulder, but this horse was way ahead of her. And so that was an interesting conversation that, oh, okay, let's talk about what's going on here. But the most profound experience is when each woman got in this round pen, which is essentially a big circle that has metal gates around it that are pretty high so that the horse can't jump out. And so in the center stands the woman and this wonderful horse trainer, Peggy. And there's a horse there with you. And so without touching that horse, you're guiding them around the circle, on the outside of the circle of you. And you're just doing it by spinning a lead rope, you know, towards their back end, and that makes them move. And then you also change their direction so that you're showing them that you're the one that's basically controlling their feet. And after a period of time, they start to get tired, but also they want, because horses are herd animals. They don't like to be out by themselves when there's, a herd, even if it's two people in the center, because in nature, they would be picked off by the mountain lion more easily. And so the horse would start to demonstrate some licking and chewing, like dropping their head. And when they go, with their mouth, that's actually their way of thinking. And so they show us these different signs. And then the person who's spinning the rope actually turns their back to the horse, drops the rope, relaxes their body posture, and essentially becomes vulnerable and allows that horse to decide whether they want to come in and join up, is what it's called. And I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it even, but I've not seen a horse not join up with a person. And so typically they'll come up behind you, you'll feel them breathing on your neck. Maybe they'll, gently nudge your shoulder, and then you turn around and you pet them and essentially, reward them for coming to you. And then there's this bond. And so the person can start to walk and the horse will follow them, and they don't have any lead ropes or anything attached to them. It's really cool.
Wow. It's like syncing Bluetooth, like it's connected.
Yes, that's a great way of looking at it. Yeah, I like that.
I think it just gives the person such a feeling of confidence, because
Oh, yes.
I truly believe that we are social people. We need,
no question.
We need connection. And when you can, like a friend of mine, she does the same type of therapy, but in California. And she says the same thing. Once the horse, and she uses horses for exactly what you just talked about.
Yeah.
Because when she can get people to let the horse in, it's like it opens up their own. Okay, this is okay. This is safe.
Yeah. Well, so that's an interesting point, Barbara, because I had a personal experience with a horse, and my friend who's also a life coach, I was doing a session with a horse where I was going to be, was a little bit different this time. I wasn't doing the join up, but I was going to walk into a round pen with a horse and have an interaction. And I had just come back from a really difficult time. My daughter had a benign brain tumor that was really dangerous. It was literally could have killed her had she not gotten to the emergency room when she did. And we went through this whole journey, which I won't go into. But anyway, I was pretty stressed out when I got back. And so I looked at this horse, who was a big white horse. And I, was pretty horse savvy, but I thought, this horse is running around and acting crazy. I don't want to get in there with him. I have skills, but I just didn't feel safe. And so my friend Janice said, okay, well, why don't you turn your back and let's talk? And so she basically helped me take deep breaths. We talked about what was going on. I told her what was, in my mind as I was thinking about my daughter and what I had just been through. And then I got into like a more grounded position as far as my emotions. I was much more chilled out. I turned around, I walked into this round pen, and the horse just stands there. And he lets me pet him. And then he kind of walks around with me. And then he lies on the ground and puts his feet up in the air, which is a total position of vulnerability, because when you show your stomach like that, dogs do it as well as horses, right? I couldn't believe the transformation just by, dealing with my own energy and my own thoughts. To see the transformation in this horse in minutes was absolutely incredible.
So incredible. It's so incredible how all that nature plays. I've had the opportunity to coach a lady here locally that owns horses and does horse coaching. And so I've been out on the farm and I've watched her in action and have been able to play with the horses. And so it's just phenomenal. It's one of those things, like you think about people like going to work, and you talked about, or for example, being in New York, right? And like there are people that fit in New York, and it's just it's their jam, right? We've used horses as models of transportation, or as worker animals or whatever, all these years, and some of that it's great fit, but there's horses, all the horses like have this ability that we have just ignored, or not I guess use their true purpose.
Right. Well, and the other thing too, so one of my wild stories of things that I've created in my life was I've been passionate about horses my whole life, but never had one, growing up in Manhattan, and then going to college and living in Massachusetts and whatnot. But when I was about 41 or 42, I decided because my daughter was equally as enamored, I decided I was going to adopt, or I was adopting a 4-month-old horse that came from a Premarin farm in Canada. Premarin is that hormone replacement drug for women. And they basically, if the boy horses, didn't get adopted, they were sent to Europe as meat. So it was pretty disturbing to think about. But nonetheless, I adopted this horse, Coco, at 4 months of age, never having had a horse before, much less trained one. And it was unbelievably life-changing. I actually got a whole DVD series by this natural horseman, Pat Pirelli. And so I learned a whole bunch of stuff that way, and just learning with this young horse. And my first goal was stay alive, uninjured. And then the second one was to try to project confidence, because I knew that if he thought I was scared or nervous, he was going to look around and go, oh gosh, what's going on? What do I need to be worried about? And his behavior was going to change. So I did some really bizarre stuff. Like when I was first walking him on a lead line, I dragged a wheelbarrow behind me so that we'd have space. So I didn't have to worry about him like getting up on my shoulders if he reared up or anything like that. So it was quite an amazing experience.
Wow. That's so interesting, the things you have to do in order to like get through that.
Totally. Uh-oh, you're muted, Barbara.
I thought I saw her mouth moving.
My phone was ringing.
Oh.
The thing that comes to mind for me is that training is animal training and people training is pretty similar. We want to project confidence.
Yeah.
We want to be aware of our abilities. And it's like, all right.
And the partnership part, I would also highlight, right? Because if we don't have a partnership with the people that we work with, it doesn't matter really what we do.
Right.
So
right.
true.
We can't do life alone. And that's that's the thing that I say quite often. We cannot do life alone. So why not learn how to do it well with others?
Indeed. And actually, would you agree, or at least I think that we learn the most about ourselves in relationship with others, right?
Yes.
I've thought about all these monks that go off and meditate, on the mountaintops by themselves. And I'm thinking, well, that's nice, but how do you really use that in real life with other people?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I truly believe that we do need to get in touch with our own inner self.
Absolutely.
But how can we use that inner self to make a difference in the world for others?
Yeah.
What are we called to do to make a difference in the world?
Right. And learning what our gifts are.
And learning what our gifts are. Yes.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, sometimes it's like, okay, yeah, what are you doing? Oh, well, I've, been in a monastery for 20 years. Well, what have you learned? So, but I guess to them they do.
Because really, what do you learn though? Because I mean,
I don't know.
You have all the answers within yourself, but to me and all my experiences, it's taken a person to come that's had a different perspective,
right?
Of either they've had a different belief level in me that I didn't have in myself, or they had a different view of my weaknesses, or that I didn't even know I had.
Exactly.
So they could through the mentorship or conversation or whatever it is, help me see what they see that's changed my life. And
totally.
so if you're there 20 years spending time with just yourself, how much do you really grow?
Right.
I completely agree.
Exactly. How can you possibly see your blind spots if you don't have somebody to mirror?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you never come up against any conflict, because there's nobody to have conflict with, what are you learning about yourself?
Right.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I always thought about homeschooling is,
interesting.
You learn a lot from, junior high, middle school, that time in my life sucked. I think it sucks for most people because most of the time at that time, you don't like yourself. So it's,
or don't even know yourself. Yeah.
You don't even know yourself. Right. And it's such a hard time. And so that time is when people lash out on others, right? And they make fun of others for their own insecurities. It's just this crazy time. However, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything because it helped me learn how to navigate people and relationships. And how do you get that if you're in isolation?
Exactly.
Right.
The conflict.
And actually they put people in isolation. They put people in isolation in prisons as a punishment.
Yeah.
Right. Right, because we
Absolutely.
are community. We
Exactly.
are community. As like one of the things that I've been working on is trying to change my wording to always be positive. Like this morning, was getting ready to send a text to Jason that, oh yeah, we never run out of things to say with our client, with our guests. And then I went, no, Barbara, because the universe does not hear the word never.
Oh,
It
that's
only
right.
hears run out of things to say. And it was like, I turned it around. It's what we always have so much to say
Yes.
Yeah.
in
There's always so much
our
to talk about.
conversation.
Right.
And when we can do even that one small thing, but I didn't learn that from being in me.
Right.
I learned that from somebody else saying, well, Barb, you need to change your context, because statistically, every morning, we more often than not, we will wake up feeling kind of negative and grumpy. We have to choose to be positive. And I know, and I used to know the statistic, and I'm not sure. I think it's like over 300 days out of the year, you'll wake up grumpy, have a feeling of
That's
grumpy.
interesting. And there's another thing that I came upon was that we think the same thoughts every day, unless we consciously choose to go somewhere else with our thinking. But
And they're
it's like
repetitive.
repeating the same 30,000 or something thoughts every day, which like,
And what's the
they're
stat?
repetitive and negative.
I would say 80% of them are negative or something like that. Or maybe,
Yes.
maybe
80% of them
more
are
than
negative.
that.
There's something
Yeah.
about the brain wiring too, which is why we respond so much to negative news. Is there something, and I forget exactly how it works, but something about the way our neural pathways are aligned that we crave that negativity in some way much more than positive. And I know for myself, like I years ago, I tried to start this web page, or I think it was a Facebook page actually, with all positive news. And everyone thought it was a great idea, but there was like hardly anyone showing up.
No
but
engagement.
If you post something that's negative, it's like everyone's, completely
Have an
ignited.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, heaven forbid, what's it, the negative news in the world.
If it bleeds, it
And
leads, right?
feeds. If it,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
However, and you look at something like even our podcast here, right? Like we may not get the draw like of something that has negative headlines, right?
Mm,
But it draws the right people.
that's a really
Right.
good point. Yes. So I think there's something all about that whole vibration thing that, we're vibrating at a certain level, and that's going to attract similarly vibed people into our space, right? So
Yep.
that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And that, it's like I had a friend. I have a friend, and he just constantly, every time I talk to him, he's in a positive space. You would think he's a motivational speaker and he does these great things. However, every time I talk to him, just negative things are happening. Or he's like, social media is crazy. Did you see on LinkedIn all these people are posting on about political stuff? And I'm like, no, I don't see any of that. Like, I don't see any of that. Like, and every time I talk to him, there's something that like egregious that happened. And I'm like, I don't see any of that. But I think it's because I've tuned my filter.
I believe you're right. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. There's this kind of ongoing joke. I don't know if Dave knows that I have this awareness, but we read the weather report a lot because when you're a farmer, weather is hugely important. And so it's every single time that we read forecasts, the forecast that I read is always better than the one he reads. And I'm like, is there a Chicken Little energy going on here with you and weather? It's kind of amusing.
Yeah.
Now, which one is right?
Totally
is it 50-50 or which one is there one?
That's a really good question. I think more likely mine tends to be accurate. And I don't think that has anything to do with me, but I feel like even the weather predictions come off as negative. And yet the reality is it didn't even rain that day that it was supposed to rain, or it was much sunnier when they said partly cloudy. It was like, okay.
Yeah. That's so crazy. Like we literally had a day this summer where it was supposed to rain and we had plans and my wife didn't want to go anywhere because it was supposed to rain.
Wow.
And so we literally we canceled out on our plans and sat at the house and waited for the rain all day. And it was never rain. And I'm like, I will never do that again. Like I'm not somebody that will ever do that usually. And I'm like, I feel like we just wasted this whole entire day waiting for it to rain.
Yeah. And then of course there was the day that Jason, he said, Barb, he said, I can't believe it. He mowed his grass, raked leaves and shoveled snow all in the same day.
Oh my word, that sounds like Vermont.
We laughed so hard.
It's gonna happen again here
Wow.
soon. It's that time of season.
Yeah.
One of those
Oh
kind
my
of things.
gosh.
All right. Well, that brings us to the halfway point of the show already. Can you believe
Wow.
this is we are halfway through already? So just, I'm Barbara Ellison, and I have Aging Gracefully, because, aging is not about trying to look like a 30-year-old. It's about being your best ever self, to have mental fitness and physical fitness and financial fitness to make the rest of your life the best of your life. So I would just encourage you to, somewhere on the YouTube page here, you'll see a little link that says Aging Gracefully. Reach out. Let's chat. Anyways, so
Barbara, can I make a suggestion before we get going?
sure.
You need to get like good headshots, like with your outfit that you have in now. Like you need some updated pictures. Like some of your, like you have like a lot of older pictures like on social
Okay.
media, and
Yeah.
like we've talked about this over and over again. I feel like you get younger all the time, and
Yeah,
you
your
need some
skin
good.
is remarkable.
You're remarkable. Like you leaned in as you're talking about your skin and like aging gracefully, and I'm like, you look like amazing. You need some photos to show that.
Before and after, and you've said that before. So yes, I will
Yeah.
do that.
Oh, that's right, because you use certain products.
because
right?
yes, I have it. Yeah. So it has just been, it's been absolutely amazing.
Whenever I go to do something with our stuff, and like I go to look for a photo of you to put in our stuff, I'm like, there's just not a picture that you have online that represents anything I
Me
see
now.
whenever we're on. Yeah, exactly.
Me now.
All right, here's your little friend.
Oh yeah.
Tripod.
This is tripod. Now
Tripod's he's our third guy, our third host.
Yes.
She's our third host. Yep.
Third host with 3 legs.
Yep. Anyways, so Amy, one of the things that Amy does, and I just love this, so I thought we could just split the show into 2 parts, but she does vision boards.
Ooh,
She
I should
mentioned
put
it.
the
We should
background
talk
on
about
for
that,
you.
yeah.
But let's show and how she has manifested through vision boarding and just the history of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I look at vision boards as the first step to manifesting your best life, because one of the things that vision boards does for us is allows us to create crystal clear vision of what it is we want to create, right? Because if we have all these sort of general ideas, oh, well, I want to travel more, or I want to make more money, or, meet my soulmate, unless we have really specific information that we're putting out to the universe, it's so much harder to attract that back, right? So I've been using these for at least 35 years. And I remember, and I always put them up in like the living room. And this particular board is actually a combined board of Dave's and mine, because he really wanted to do a vision board, but he said, I'd really like to do one with you, because we have so many of the same goals in mind, wouldn't that make sense? And I thought, why not? That's a great idea. So I used to have one up in my living room in Massachusetts. And I remember my friend Deb, after I moved to Vermont, she said, it's really remarkable. Everything on that board that you have now in your life. And I had to look and think about it. Like, oh, wow. Yeah, I got the big garden. I got the dog. I got the horse. I moved to Vermont. And then as time went on, after I changed relationships, then even more things started to happen that I had put on my vision board. So I think that they're just such an incredible tool, and you don't have to be an artist to do it. It's so easy now. You can just Google pictures and words and print them out on a color printer. You don't have to find a magazine anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people do you think go around in life not knowing what they want?
I think the majority, honestly. And here's a crazy statistic that will maybe relate to that. Inc. magazine said that only 8% of us are actually achieving our goals. 8%. In our, achievement-oriented society, especially here in the US, I was shocked to find that little statistic.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was just talking to somebody the other day, an owner of a company, and she was talking about how she normally they have quarterly meetings and they, as a team, set goals together. And she was like, I've never really believed in those goals. It's like always it'd be nice. it'd be awesome if we hit that. But like, I really have no realistic expectation. It was like, we're setting these goals to set these goals because I know this is what we're supposed to do.
Oh,
I
that's
know that it'd be nice to hit those goals, but I don't see a realistic plan in place that we're going to actually do that.
So that's a really good point and a very valid thing, even for vision boards, because if you put something on your board, that doesn't really match what you want, your mind is immediately going to go, oh, yeah, I don't want that, or I don't think I can have that. So one of the things that I've started teaching people to do is to try to clear the beliefs that are in the way of those goals that we're setting, right? So one of the great techniques that it's so easy to do is EFT tapping.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my vision board course, I actually got my favorite EFT tapper is this guy, Brad Yates. And
I love him.
Oh, you know him?
He is awesome.
Isn't he wonderful? Yeah. So he has one specifically for vision boards. So I now include that in the vision board class because that's part of it, right? I've never really been a fan of affirmations unless it's worded differently. Like sometimes I'll say, I believe it's possible to have XYZ, as opposed to I now have, something, because I don't want my mind to engage and say, oh, no, you don't, or you can't have that, or, whatever the
negative
voice says, right?
Yeah. Right. And one of the things that I've been working on, and in fact, just a week or so ago, I had a chance to talk with a young man. He's in e-commerce, and we were just having a LinkedIn conversation. And, and he was telling me what he does. And then it was kind of like, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I'd like to just start by asking you a question. And he went, oh, okay. I said, well, who are you within what you do?
But he didn't know how to answer that.
He was absolutely blank. But then that's why I love what I do sometimes. And Jason can tell you the same thing. When you start to see the wheel turn, it's like that you can just start to see the wheel turn. And then he went, that's a really interesting question.
It is a really good question. That's a really, really good question.
It changed the whole dynamic of the next part of the conversation.
I bet.
And it was like, oh, wow. He had never thought of it, of who are you within what you do. And so then he said, so a little while into the conversation, there was supposed to be a 30-minute conversation. And at 40 minutes, we were still just going strong. Ooh. And so I think at the 40-minute, he said to me, well, who are you? I said, well, I'm a senior. I said, I'm a successful, energetic, no nonsense, inspiring, outrageous rebel looking for her next adventure.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
And he went,
oh.
And it really, so you know what, now he's thinking about it. But the gist of it is that you never know who you're going to meet. And so then he said to me, you know what, Barb, one of the companies that I do I'm in e-commerce, but our parent company is a training company. Would you be willing to let me share your profile with the trainers?
Oh, wow.
I went, absolutely. So cool. I don't know if anything will come of it or not. Doesn't matter. But it changed his life.
Yeah.
Because now he's thinking about it. Who are you within what you do? He said, oh, wow. I never thought of it. He said, I just set goals because this is what I'm supposed to do. But if you're setting a goal for something that's not you.
Right.
Yeah.
I got a visual on something you said, Amy, and I'd want to see if this is what you would, if this would be along your thoughts. You were talking about like the tapping versus like affirmations. Mm-hmm. I almost look at it as like affirmations are like taking a Tylenol or taking a pill, like it doesn't really get to the root of the problem. You can sit and tell yourself all day that you're pretty, that you have confidence, that you're likable or whatever, but it doesn't really go down to that root cause of when you were 7 years old and your dad told you were an ugly and you're no good for nothing, right? Like you got to really get down to that root cause. And so that root cause is really doing that coaching. It's really doing that deep dive. It's really, it's doing the work.
That's such a valid point. Yes, I totally agree with you. And I think that you triggered another thought in my mind was one of the things that if we are working to be more conscious and more aware and creating our ideal life, I think one of the important pieces to that is understanding our triggers. So
Yes.
so if somebody most of us, all of us, I'm sure, from the point of in utero to about age 7, according to Dr. Bruce Lipton, have been programmed with all these different beliefs, right? And our parents had the same thing happen to them and so forth. And so I feel like our task is to uncover those beliefs, determine which ones we want to keep and which ones we don't. And so how do you get rid of the ones you don't? And I think that's where the tapping comes in, to your point, that tapping experience is much more like getting to the root cause of something, as opposed to trying to mask the symptoms. And then, that gets into a whole conversation about healthcare.
Right.
But it's so like mindset is everything. You talk about like
Yes.
going to the gym and getting healthy. Like you can go
Absolutely.
to the gym, and I've seen people anyways that have gone to the gym and have worked out every day for 3 hours a day, and they don't have any change. They stay the same, and sometimes they're like still overweight, right? But it's because it's like 80% diet, 20% what you actually do in the gym, or 80% what you put in your body, 20% what you do in the gym. And I think it's the same thing with anything in life. It's like 80% what you believe, 20% what you actually do.
Yeah, that's
That
so
action.
interesting. That 80-20 ratio is definitely present for a lot of different things.
Right.
Yeah, it's so
hearing that.
interesting. That 80-20 is so interesting.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, it's like in business, they always say that 20% of your effort will pay you 80% of your income.
Exactly. Or 20% of the people
Yeah.
make up 80% of your profits. Yeah.
20% of your people make up 80% of your profits, which is crazy. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And then the whole idea that, whoever's purchased from you before are more likely to purchase from you again. So it's, better to kind of work that relationship and continue to give value, as opposed to trying to seek completely new people.
Number one business advice I'd give people is don't worry about acquiring new people. Take care of the people that you have, and you will acquire new people, because those people will refer you out. They will be word of mouth. They'll talk about you, and more people will come.
Right. And I have a prime example this week. I had been having trouble with my internet, and now I realized I was on the wrong channel. But the first company, I called them and I said, they had upped my monthly rate by like $30.
Oh, my word.
I called them and I said, hey, are you willing to put me back down? Because I can go with another company that will what I'm paying, what I was paying. And they went, oh, we don't have anything like that. I went, okay.
Wow, goodbye.
Well, bye.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
And I would have stayed with them if it would have been $1 difference.
Wow.
But they would not go down. So I went, okay, fine. So I called up and I said, I need to cancel my account. The guy said, are you moving? And I said, no. And he said, oh, okay.
And that was it?
That was the end of the conversation.
So didn't even care about why you were dissatisfied or anything?
Did not care, did not ask, nothing. Went over to I'll give them a plug, T-Mobile, went over, bought one of their boxes. All I did was plug it in and turn on the app. And that was it.
Wow.
Amazing.
$50 a month. And then a friend of mine did the same thing, and you wouldn't believe how many people I have told.
Well, that's what you're using right now.
And now we've just told it live on YouTube.
So you'll notice, except for my glitch at the beginning, because I hadn't made sure it was on my new one.
Well, that's a huge plug for it in itself, because you constantly have issues where you'll freeze up.
Constantly had issue.
Wow, but not anymore. Except
look how stable it is.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
very
T-Mobile got their commercial in the
T-Mobile.
They should be sending you something for your recommendation.
So I just have to make sure that because within the house there is the house Wi-Fi, and I just have to always make sure. And I forgot this morning to always make sure that I'm on the right Wi-Fi and that it's on mine. That's only me.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so nobody else has a device on your particular Wi-Fi.
On my Wi-Fi, on mine. But then we do have a house one that all the kids use.
Ah, that makes a lot of sense.
And so I got my own, but I can't believe how stable it is.
Wow.
It's like, just I have to do my part and make sure I'm on it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
No,
look how
every
safe it is.
episode we usually have an issue where you glitch
Yep.
at some point or you freeze up here and there. You're
Oh,
usually saying something
wow.
profound and all of a sudden you like freeze
It's
up. And so
gone.
this is awesome.
Wow.
So I just said, all right, yeah, I'm done with this. And you weren't going to give it to me. I said, and this is faster,
Wow, that's even better. Faster and more reliable.
faster and more reliable. And it's a little box sitting beside me.
And you'd have to be wearing the color of their company as your
And I
glasses,
happen to
so
be
that's-
wearing
the T-Mobile needs to seriously send us some money. Where are you at, T-Mobile?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Exactly.
Branding and everything.
So it has just been, it's like, oh, wow, I can't get over the difference in it. So you just, so this, but that's exactly what's happening to companies. And the other example I had, well, when Tripod ate my wire, I went over to
right.
Best Buy. I went over to Best Buy and I said, "Oh, this is what I need. I need a wire for my Yeti speaker that I bought here.
Yeah,
I bought it at Best Buy.
yeah. But they don't have it.
Nothing.
They didn't have
Right.
it? You had to
Didn't
order
have it.
online?
Didn't have it
Wow.
and didn't even send anybody to help me. I
I
went,
I
okay.
keep hearing stories and having experiences, thankfully not personally, but because I've
Yeah.
had some decent customer service lately, but I keep hearing these horror stories of customer service nightmares. Like, what
Nope.
the heck is going on?
Right. So I came home. I went, gee, let's see. And $6 on Amazon.
Wow.
And I had it the next day.
Jeez.
Well, and that's the problem in Amazon. Amy has found the major problem is that service sucks. It's not just recently; it's been a
Yeah.
long time coming.
Husband.
Customer
Right. I mean,
service sucks.
Prime,
think
you don't
it's
get
taken a
things
bigger
in
dip.
2 day.
Yeah, I think it's taken a bigger dip since 2020 and some of the employee problems we're having. So I
Agreed.
think it's even further stretched out. But that's the problem. So that's what's fun is for small businesses out there, you have an opportunity to make an impact and grow your company
Absolutely.
by just tuning in to the fact that what Amazon found out is that people aren't getting good service. So you take care
Yeah.
of people, you help them out, you
Right.
point them in the right direction. And if you don't carry what they need as a solution, you point them in the right direction and they
Exactly.
will forever come to you. And
Yeah, I mean,
Amazon will
we
eat your
even-
lunch.
exactly. We even believe in that at the farm. If somebody comes in and we don't have something that they want, I'll tell them where to get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it
Yep.
goes back to the movie 34th Street. Wait, when did that movie come out? Where he was playing
Oh, the Miracle of
but he
34th
was
Street,
Miracle
yeah.
of Miracle of 34th Street. And they didn't have it, so he sent them to somebody, and then the
Oh, that's
person
exactly
came and
right.
said, the person came and said, "Why did you do that?" He said, "Because the customer pays our salary. Will they'll remember that I did that."
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's
Right. You'd think
absolutely
it would be
the truth.
something detrimental to their business by referring, but it really doesn't work out
Yeah.
that way.
They didn't have the item.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
If you don't have the item, send them to somebody who does. But in Best Buy, they didn't even send anybody to help me.
You know what it comes down to though?
That is-
Mindset. It's scarcity versus abundance. It's
Right.
if
Oh,
I
that's
send
a
them to
good
my
point.
competitor, they're gonna
That's right.
build a relationship with your competitor to
Right.
where you can not only make that recommendation, but you can say, hey, go see Amy. I know I don't have what you have, but Amy can really help you out.
Mm.
Think of that difference.
Yeah. It's energetically, you can just feel the difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. And I think as more and more
Rising
companies
tide
are
lifts all
starting
boats.
to do it.
Yeah.
Hopefully they are. Like that's one of the
Well-
things I love about the book by Steve Varber. Love what you do in the service of people who love what you do. Be in service
Yep.
to the people who love what you do. And that book was absolutely amazing. It was like, oh, right. So how do I want to show up? Like we've talked about, how do we want to show up? I want to show up as somebody that cares about the fact that you're not aging well, or and like one of the I'm finding I'm working with more people that are coming up to retirement age and they have no idea of who they are outside of their title.
Mm. Yeah. I would imagine do you find that that's more profound for men than women, or is it
It's
equal?
It's becoming, well, depends on, if you're the corporate women or the women are I'm finding it a little bit different. But they're just calling it like empty nest.
Oh,
because
Yeah,
now
they
they're
had to
no
define
longer
themselves.
they don't know
Yeah.
who they are outside of being a wife and mother.
right.
That's where I was.
Yeah.
That was my
Yep.
space when David
Yep.
died,
Oh, right.
because I
I
had
can
no
see how that
So
idea
that's
who
how
happened.
I
you saw
was.
yourself
Yeah.
prior to his death.
I was a happy wife and mother, and I was going to dance at our great grandchildren's wedding, and I was totally happy and
Wow.
had a happy marriage.
Wow.
But then that happy marriage was ripped out from under me. And
Huh.
who am I outside of all of those labels of being a daughter and a wife, and then being a mother, but then being a divorced failure, but then being a wife again, and then being a grandmother, but now I'm a widow.
Mm.
Yeah.
All those labels, and we all have them, whether we
Oh, for
think
sure.
we do or not. We all have them. So that was when I said to this young man last night, who are you outside of what you do? Because he's in his early 30s. But you
Yeah.
know what? It has changed. I know that it has changed the trajectory of his life. He is not going to be one of those, because he's starting to think about it.
Mm.
And now every once in a while, I send him a little tip on
Aw,
things he can do.
that's awesome.
I gave him a couple of tips on how to handle stress. He said, "Oh, that'll work when I'm sitting in a meeting and I'm this." It's like, I would exactly rub your fingers together like this, and just be really aware of your fingers. It'll trigger your brain from the survival brain into your sage brain.
Right. And that's kind of like a mindfulness technique too,
It's a
because you're just
mindfulness, right?
drawing your attention to that present moment.
Right, to get you present.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And actually, that's a
Okay.
great tool, I think, for so many different things within the body.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the whole idea of I'm sitting on this chair. Okay, I experience myself sitting on the chair. What does that
Yeah.
feel like? You know,
Right.
what are my feet
Mhm.
doing? How are my shoulders feeling? And
Yeah.
brings me back into my body.
And being present.
Yes, exactly.
Being present with what you're doing
Mhm.
or who you are being. That's one of the things that I work with. Who are you? Who do you want to be? That's not because what you want to do. Okay, that's what you're doing, but
Right.
who do
Yeah.
you want to be? And then Jason
Well,
and
I
I have
think
had great conversations about
that's
that.
such an interesting point too, because when you think about a goal, let's say you want to
Mhm.
be a six-figure
Right.
entrepreneur.
Mhm.
Who do you have to be in order to have that happen? Right. That's probably the
Yes.
first
Yes.
question.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Right. Because if you have a lack, a mentality
Right.
that's about not abundance,
Right.
it's going to be really hard to try to overcome that mindset to get to that place that you want to get to, even if you do all sorts of different tasks, in service of reaching that goal. But
Right.
unless you can make that flip of the mindset, yeah, that's cool.
Just to know what your purpose is, and purpose will as a friend of mine says, purpose will eat passion for lunch.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Ooh,
You can
I like
have
that.
you can have passion all you want, and you're going to be
Right.
so passionate, but if you don't have a purpose behind your passion,
Mm. Right.
passion
Then you're
wears
just kind of
off.
spewing that
And you're
passion all
just
over the
spewing
place.
passion all over the place. But is
Yeah.
anybody relating to the why are you doing? It all comes back to Simon Sinek of the power of why. People
Yeah.
don't care how you do what you do, but they want to know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I love
Yeah.
one of the videos that he compares a couple of the different companies of Microsoft and Apple. Microsoft is all about the do. Well, Apple wants to change the world, and guess what?
Right.
They're doing
They
it.
are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So it's the business world, I believe, is changing.
Oh, I think you're right.
To
I think
get
everything in our
more-
world is changing.
Mhm,
And we're
mhm.
going to have a rude awakening.
What are
In
you
some ways.
anticipating?
Oh, I think some of the big companies that are not using this type of mindset of being customer aware.
Mhm.
Let's make a difference in the world. They're going to be the ones that all of a sudden because there's going to be some
I
up
hope
and
so.
comings.
I hope, because I'm just, if you watch the television at all, and I don't watch TV
I
news,
try not to.
I watch shows, right? But they stupid commercials still come on. First of all, it's appalling to me that I think we're the only country that has pharmaceutical ads.
Yes.
I don't think any other country has that. And I don't know about you guys, but when I see those, I really try to block them out because I find them incredibly discordant. I'm seeing like all these happy faces and people doing,
Mhm.
lovely
Throwing the
things.
boat,
Then you hear
running
the
with the
words
dog,
underneath, like may cause death, stroke, blah, blah, like,
Right.
hemorrhaging out of all of our orifices. Yeah,
Yes.
all lovely stuff.
like I'd rather have that skin condition than all these other horrible side effects.
Right.
me
And,
and my son every
cause
time
death.
me and my
Can
son every
cause
time
death.
we make jokes, like it'd be so funny at the end as they're rowing on the boat and playing with the dog, like if the people were experiencing the side effects, like
Yes.
hemorrhaging out of the ears, like
Yes.
they're throwing the frisbee and all of a sudden they're coughing blood, and
Exactly.
like
Oh my
it'd be
God. That's
hilarious. It'd be so
perfect.
funny.
Yep.
I love
Well,
it.
and so I bring that up partly because we were just hearing this ridiculous piece of news that they were charging 10,000. I guess we were listening to Russell Brand. He said that Pfizer is now charging 10,000 times the price for their vaccine than was originally charged. And I think it's because they're trying to make up extra profits because they're so used to these profits they've been making and the decline in sales. And I just thought, when is it going to be about health care
Yeah.
Right.
and not sick care?
And not sick care.
That's a whole topic we could talk about all day long about
Oh, for
insurance
sure.
and
Oh, God, yes.
modern healthcare and like just the money scheme around that
Yes.
whole piece.
Right. The money and the corruption and, so that's one of the things that motivates me to help clients take their power back, whether it's to do with their health or, any aspect of their life, really.
That's
So,
awesome. That's so
Amy,
awesome.
this has been, Jason, we've got to have Amy back.
Yeah, no,
Love it.
this has been my favorite one in a while. This was a really good conversation. So I'm excited.
Well, I need to
post it.
understand. I need to learn more about you in the next one, Jason.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely do that.
And
Cool.
and you know what, Jason and Amy, I'll plug. Jason doesn't plug himself very often, but he has a
can see that,
wonderful podcast called Coffee and Grit.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah,
And-
I'll send a link. You can check it out.
Okay.
Check it
I'd
out.
love to.
So yeah, let's.
I like
give him a
coffee.
plug there.
Not sure what the grit means. I'll check it out.
So really what it was, we talked about not being alone, right? And so many, I think, entrepreneurs start off and they have a lot of pride. They have a lot of, I'm going to do this on my own type deal. And depending on what kind of business you start, especially if for me, I'm starting a coaching business. My wife has started a business where she's mainly at home. And I've watched my wife go through the solitary confinement experience of being around office people, being around people all day, to then all of a sudden being in your office and not getting outside of the house. And you lose, it's solitary confinement. You start talking
I totally
to yourself,
can
right?
understand that.
And
Yeah.
I've been through that. She's been through. I've watched so many entrepreneurs, especially solopreneurs, go through that experience. Well, something that changed my life is I'm just somebody that I wanted to go out and find people like yourself that were going out and doing, right? And so I'd go out and find the coaches and the consultants who had what I wanted, or that I was watching them do what I wanted to build, and I'd go out and have coffee with them. Or I'd find
Nice.
other entrepreneurs that were building great businesses, and I'd have conversations with all these people. And then the other thing happened was I was trying to make videos and brand myself and build my business and get myself out there. And I was also watching a lot of Gary Vee, and I was seeing
I
him just
love
bring
him.
a camera, right? He has conversations with interns, with people in the crowd, with employees. He has these random conversations, but he records every single one of them and he turns it into content. And so I'm like, I'm having these incredible conversations at coffee shops. Why don't I bring a camera? And so I started doing that. And then I'd have all this hours long of content conversations with people that was just incredible. And I'm like, ended up putting it in a podcast, long story short, because it's like, there's so many people out there doing this thing and they think they're the only ones going through the struggle. And there are some people out there doing incredible things that have been kicked in the teeth, that have had to overcome challenges. And so I love helping people tell that story, get them exposure while also
Oh no, he glitched.
so it feeds back to the audience. Oh, did I glitch?
You did glitch for a second.
Yeah. I was saying
Hold on a
success
second.
in stories leaves clues. Brene Brown says stories are data
Oh,
with soul. And so I love
yes.
people telling their stories, because there's so much for people to learn in that. So
That's
that's
awesome.
what it's all about.
Yeah, definitely
that's
send me a
what I'm
link. I'd love to check that
Send
out.
him a link. So anyways, everybody have an awesome day. And thank you so much for listening. Hey, you know what? Share us out. Send us some love. Send us some comments. and just let us know. And we're going to be, we're going to be putting this out on Spotify. So, and if you're on Spotify listening, hey, hi.
What's up?
And just absolutely have a great day. Bye,
Bye, everyone.
everybody.
Bye.